Hello everyone, welcome back to another video. Today we are going to be talking about CSS gradients. But before we do that, I just want to show you a quick cool thing that people who make HTML websites do. You can use something called semantic HTML right here. So instead of doing header, you can do div class equals header. And what this does is that it simply makes your code much easier to read. So instead of saying div class header, div class content, you can use these HTML tags instead. If you're not the type of person who likes CSS, and then when you go to the CSS, instead of doing dot header, you can just do header, like you select the body tag and stuff like that. So semantic HTML, other examples are navbar, footer, article. You can search them all up, but that's just a little cool thing that you can do, and lots of professional HTML designers do that as well. But you don't need to. In fact, I recommend you don't, unless you're making a website with a lot of content. And usually you won't be until like maybe your final project. So without further ado, let's get onto the gradients. Now, what are gradients? They're like a mesh of colors, right? So right now I have like a boring, plain white, dark gray, light gray. But I want some cool metallic looking gradients, right? So let's try it. First, let me show you how to make a linear gradient. Okay, linear gradient. Okay. Now, the first parameter is we want to indicate what direction should it go to. We can say to right, we can go to left, we can go to top, or we can go to bottom. Or if you know how a circle works, you can also use degrees, so like 45 degrees or negative 90 degrees. Okay, but for now, I'm going to assume that some of you don't know what degrees are, so I'm just going to use to right. And let's use some of the primary colors, green. Okay, let's see if this works. Okay, doesn't look that good, right? You see a lot of websites use gradients and it looks really nice and they mesh together. Well, the reason for that is because they don't mix primary colors together. There are just some colors that don't go together. Some people actually spend a lot of their careers in color theory, like trying to figure out what colors go really well together. For example, blue into purple could go pretty well together. So let's try it. Blue, purple. Okay, looks good. But I want to go to the bottom. I want it to like kind of fade out in the bottom. So let's see what that looks like. Okay, so that doesn't work. What about if we try 45 degrees? What does it look like? Oh, we're still having those lines. What about 135? So this is just playing around with the numbers. And 135 is basically 90 plus 45. We're still having this weird line effect. Okay, so we managed to fix the problem. Well, I managed to fix the problem. And it was that it seems that the body is having some problem registering the gradients properly. But basically, I had this section with the ID of content, and remember to give it an ID for semantic HTML. And then the background image right here, we made it a background image. You can make it a background as well. And linear gradient, 135 degrees. So 135 degrees is like going that way, right? And then blue to purple. Now this looks like a much better gradient. We can also add, let's say I want to add like an aqua blue type of thing, right? Or turquoise. Okay. Man, am I not good at spelling? Let me just do blue, and then you can of course hover over here and play with the values a bit. So let's see. I want that type of color so that blends well. Then you can also change the opacity here, so you can make it fade out. So I'll make this opacity. So let's hover over this and let's make this like that. Make the opacity like that, and right here make the opacity like that, and let's make it a little lighter. Let's see how it looks like now. Looks a bit interesting. Now, of course, this is not the theme. The theme is mecha gradients, and I'll show you how we can make gradients much better than this, actually, right now. So you can see making gradients by yourself is sort of a pain, right? You have to be like really good at color theory. But luckily, there's online CSS gradient creators that you can use. And there's two that I specifically recommend. Now, the first is called UI gradients, right? Just to give you a preview, they have a lot of gradients that you can use and you can browse through, and the community updates them, so there'll be more as time comes. So I like a metallic gradient, and I want a metallic gradient for my header, so why don't we go with graded gray. Okay, this one looks interesting, so I'm gonna click on get CSS, and these are fallbacks, right? But I'm just going to use one of them. You can copy the entire thing too, that's fine. Okay, and let's replace the header with this, and let's see if it works. Oh, that looks cool. That's a metallic gradient. Let's replace this with light gray because this is a mess. Light gray. Or did I spell that right? Okay, I did. Okay, so that looks cool. We can also use this right here. And this allows you to create CSS gradients much better and faster. So I can go here, here, and edit it a bit. You know, let's change it this way, and then here I can go like up here to make some sort of like fade in. I can change the transparency a bit, but I'd rather not. Then here we can finally go full black or full white. White looks better. But we'll go here and we'll actually have that type of fade in. Then we can also change in the type of direction it goes in. And then we can, of course, come here and copy it. And we can paste it, and let's replace this with our content. Oh boy, that's pretty big. And we have, I mean, the red doesn't go that well. You have to figure out how to blend things well, and that just comes with practice on watching videos. I recommend you use this because they have really good gradients. But if you have a perfect idea for a gradient and you think you know how to make it, then you can also use this. I was researching a little bit on gradients, and I found lots of articles that said if you look at nature, like just go outside whenever you can, just look in nature, how the gradients work, how like colors blend together, like you'll be able to create a ton of cool gradients. And gradients are actually surprisingly helpful in order to make your website look better. Like that's one of the first things people look at. Like gradients make people more attracted to your website rather than flat colors, we call them, like red, black, or green. So try to experiment with gradients. Again, you can also make color gradients as well, and I want you to figure that out. I'm not going to tell you that. And yeah, hopefully you can utilize this in your project for Unit 4, which is going to be Unit 4, which is going to be making a form. And then in Unit 5, we're actually going to be using something called JavaScript in order to do something with their data. And it'll be cool. So I hope you enjoyed this lesson on gradients, and I'll see you guys next time. Please ask if you have any questions.